New footage has surfaced showing Ksoo being body slammed in jail, and he's clearly not looking good. This comes right after his own father took the stand in court and testified against him.
The person that was captured on the video recording shooting Charles McCormick.
My son.
What's your son's name?
Hakeem.
And if that wasn't enough, even his own friend turned on him. Things are looking bad for Ksoo right now, but to really understand how it all fell apart, you need the full story. The fall of a Jacksonville legend is wild, and here's how it happened. Ksoo wasn't just any street rapper. He was deeply involved in Jacksonville's deadly ATK gang war that's been claiming lives since 2017. This feud has been so violent that it's left more than a dozen people dead, including innocent kids caught in the crossfire. It all started in 2017 when 18-year-old Zion Malik Brown, KTA associate, was killed. And that's when the tension exploded. ATK, short for AC's Top Killers, was led by Young N Ace, with Ksoo as one of his top soldiers, while KTA, short for Kill Them All, was led by Foolio. These weren't just rap crews. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office identified them as violent gangs. For Ksoo, the beef was personal. On January 15, 2019, his stepbrother, Willie Addison, known as Boss Goon, was gunned down in a shootout outside Paradise Gentlemen's Club. This was no ordinary shooting. Ksoo's father, Abdul Robinson Sr., and his brother, Abdul Robinson Jr., were also hit. Abdul Jr. was shot in the head and barely survived, spending months in the hospital learning to walk and talk again. Then, exactly 1 year later, on January 15, 2020, Charles Lilbeck McCormack Jr., a 23-year-old KTA-affiliated rapper, was murdered at a shopping plaza in Jacksonville. The motive? McCormack had dropped a diss track mocking Willie Addison, saying he was smoking on Willie, a street term meaning disrespecting a dead rival. Instead of staying quiet, Ksoo made the fatal mistake many young street rappers make. He bragged online. He posted McCormack's picture on Instagram with the caption, "Bay," appeared in music videos flashing the same weapons used in the murder. Prosecutors even used Young N Ace's song Show Homicide as evidence, where Ace rapped Ksoo, "Go kill him."
Who basically was posting videos bragging about, killing, different KTA members, or whatever you want to call it. And he's talking about smoking Bibby.
Yeah.
And he actually got arrested for the murder of Bibby.
Yeah.
For the life of me, I don't know why you would commit a murder and then go on the internet and brag about the murder. It just makes absolutely.
That was Foolio himself, before he was killed in 2024, talking about how Ksoo was moving recklessly, and Foolio was absolutely right. Murder has no statute of limitations. You can be arrested even 40 years later, so why go online bragging about bodies? The case against Ksoo was stacked with evidence. Surveillance footage captured the shooting. Cell phone records placed him at the scene, and his fingerprints were found on a gun inside the stolen vehicle. But the most damaging blow came from his own circle, and that's where the story turns heartbreaking. Dominique Butter Barner, the getaway driver, took a plea deal and testified against Ksoo. In court, Barner admitted that he drove the stolen Nissan Altima while Ksoo and his cousin, Leroy Whitaker, planned to ambush McCormack. But the most chilling part of Barner's testimony was yet to come.
And was there a plan at that point in time for what was going to happen next?
Yes, sir.
And what was that plan?
Well, they were going to ambush him as soon as he got in the vehicle.
All right. So ambush who?
Charles McCormick.
And when you say ambush, what does that mean?
Well, we call it run down.
What does run down mean?
It's ambush.
Barner described in detail how they waited for hours outside McCormack's apartment, followed him to the shopping plaza, and how Ksoo jumped out of the car with a rifle and chased him. When asked what happened next, Barner's response sent chills through the courtroom.
What did Hakeem Robinson do?
Chased him. Killed.
But the most devastating blow came from someone Ksoo never expected: his own father. Abdul Robinson Sr., 54, also known as Blue, took the stand on July 28, 2025, and what happened next shocked the entire courtroom. when the prosecutor played the dashcam footage of McCormack's murder and asked him to identify the shooter, Abdul Sr. hesitated, became emotional, and then dropped a bombshell.
Person that was captured on the video recording shooting Charles McCormick.
My son.
What's your son's name?
Hakeem.
The courtroom fell silent as this man identified his own son as the killer. But it got even worse. Sabdul Sr. had taken a plea deal that cut his potential. 60-year sentence down to just 20 years in exchange for his cooperation. He was facing charges as an accessory after the fact for helping the shooters escape and burning their clothes. When asked why he was testifying against his own flesh and blood, Abdul Sr. broke down.
I'm diabetic. I'm on high blood pressure. I suffer from congestive heart failure. I just found out June 25th that my kidneys is failing rapidly.
He spoke about his younger children, a 8-year-old daughter who kept asking when he would take her to a father-daughter dance, and 2 6-year-old sons who wanted him at their football games. He was literally forced to choose between his older sons and his younger children, between loyalty and his own survival.
No, this is the most hardest decision I've ever had to make in my life.
The cross-examination was brutal as Ksoo's defense attorneys pressed Abdul Sr. about his motives, essentially asking if what he was doing to his sons was worse than killing them. In a 2023 deposition, when asked if his testimony could lead 2 life sentences for his boys and whether that was worse than death, Abdul Sr. answered yeah to both questions. The streets reacted exactly as expected. Rapper Boosie Badaz went off on Vlad TV. He's calling it heartbreaking and stressing the street code of loyalty. While social media exploded with debates over family loyalty versus accountability, but Abdul Sr. wasn't done. He also testified against his other son, Abdul Robinson Jr., in related cases, essentially dismantling his entire family for a chance at freedom. And to be there for his younger kids, a choice that would haunt any parent, but in the streets is seen as the ultimate betrayal. Now here's where the story gets even crazier, and why that new footage everyone's talking about is so significant. While Ksoo was going through his trial, facing life in prison, and dealing with his father's testimony, he was also allegedly getting beat down in jail. And that's what we're about to break down in part 2, the violent reality of Ksoo's incarceration. From the moment Ksoo was locked up in September 2020 on these murder charges, it's been nothing but trouble, systematic abuse, threats against his family, and incidents that would make anyone's blood boil. The first major documented incident happened on October 5th, 2021, when surveillance video from Duval County Jail showed a corrections officer handcuffing Ksoo in his cell around 7:45 p.m. and then slamming him to the ground like it was a WWE match, all while he was restrained. Officers claimed Ksoo had threatened to kill them and was about to spit, justifying the use of force, but his family told a very different story, saying the officer taunted him about his deceased sister and threatened to rearrange his face. Ksoo reportedly suffered a broken wrist from the slam. Shockingly, later that same evening around 8 p.m., his sister Karen Robinson was shot in the face at the Avenues Mall in Jacksonville by a bail bondsman trying to apprehend her for outstanding warrants. The family found the timing suspicious, believing it was connected to the officer's earlier threat, though authorities ruled it unrelated and tied to her bond skipping. Karen's injuries were devastating. Her jaw was partially blown off, requiring a tracheostomy, and the family refused to believe it was coincidence. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office investigated the jail incident and cleared the officer. But Ksoo's attorney, Christopher Dust, called the force excessive, and his grandmother filed formal complaints. Fast forward to December 2020 for Ksoo. Allegedly suffered another beating while in handcuffs, posting on social media that the police done beat me again and accusing them of trying to break his spirit. While no official report or video surfaced, his attorney later alleged mental abuse and unconstitutional isolation during pre-trial hearings in early 2025, saying Ksoo was kept on the jail's 6th floor, the psych ward, and disciplinary unit where he suffered mental breakdowns, stopped eating and sleeping, and couldn't properly communicate with his legal team. By January 2025, he was moved back to general population after complaints, but the damage was done. All this was unfolding while Jacksonville was in the middle of its most violent gang war. With the ATKKTA feud still claiming lives, when Foolio was murdered in Tampa in June 2024. Sheriff TK Waters even warned the public about possible retaliation. And although 5 suspects were later arrested, tensions stayed high. In this climate, Ksoo wasn't just another inmate, he was a marked man. And some corrections officers seemed eager to take justice into their own hands. Making matters worse, while he was being beaten and isolated in jail, his own crew was lining up to testify against him, young Ace, who reportedly spent hundreds of thousands on Ksoo's legal defense. Even admitted on a July 25, 2025 Instagram Live that he was going broke trying to cover the costs. But loyalty can only stretch. So far, when people are staring down life sentences, Dominique Barner had already taken a plea deal and testified in detail about how they planned the ambush. Followed McCormack and how Ksoo jumped out with the rifle, the most damaging part being his description of what happened immediately after Ksoo pulled the trigger.
Did Hakeem take anything with him?
Yes, sir.
What was that?
Murder weapon.
Where did you go?
I ran behind Scotty.
Did you take your Glock with you?
No, sir.
Did Scotty, Leroy Whitaker, take his rifle with him?
No, sir.
Where were they?
Still in the car.
So while Ksoo was allegedly being brutalized in jail, his co-defendants were in court telling everything: how they got the stolen car, what weapons they had, how the plan unfolded, and how Ksoo was the one who pulled the trigger. Even his cousin Leroy Whitaker, who was also facing charges, was staring down his own life sentence. The entire ATK crew was falling apart, with everyone scrambling to save themselves. But nothing could prepare anyone for what Abdul Robinson Sr. would do on the witness stand. He didn't just identify his son as the shooter, he openly admitted to helping cover up the crime.
After you got back to your home, did you do anything else to assist either Leroy Whitaker or Dominique Barner?
Yes.
What did you do?
Well, I took the clothes they had on and left with them.
He described driving to a spot behind a Burger King and setting their clothes on fire. His own son's freedom literally going up in smoke while he held the match. The psychological impact on Ksoo must have been devastating. Imagine sitting in that courtroom, already worn down from months of alleged abuse in jail, and watching your own father, the man who raised you and who you trusted more than anyone, tell a room full of strangers that you are a murderer. Abdul Sr. admitted during his testimony that it was the hardest thing I ever had to do in my life, but made it clear that his health problems and his desire to be there for his younger children pushed him to make that choice. The defense tried hard to portray both Barner and Abdul Sr. as unreliable witnesses motivated by self-preservation. It's pointing out that both men had secured plea deals, but the prosecution had far more than their words. They had surveillance footage, cell phone records, fingerprints, and most importantly, Ksoo's own social media posts bragging about the killing. Social media became a critical part of the case in ways that would have been unthinkable a decade ago. Prosecutors used Ksoo's Instagram post with Mick Cormack's picture and the caption "Bye Bye Bye" as evidence. And they even pointed to lyrics from Young Ace's song Ksoo Homicide, where Ace raps "Ksoo go kill him too," illustrate the violent mindset of their group. This sparked debates about criminalizing artistic expression. But in the eyes of the court, posting a murder victim's picture with a taunting caption went far beyond art. It was evidence of intent. On July 31, 2025, after just over 3 hours of deliberation, the jury found Ksoo guilty of first-degree murder, and his cousin Leroy Whitaker was also convicted. Both now faced potential life sentences without parole. But even after the conviction, the story didn't end. Because new reports and footage began surfacing about what's been happening to Ksoo since that guilty verdict. Is this that show? A man broken down by the system, betrayed by his family, and allegedly brutalized in custody. In Part 3, we dive into this viral footage to examine what it means for Ksoo's future and how it reflects the larger problem of the cycle of violence in places like Jacksonville. This final part of the story isn't just about one man's downfall, it's about entire communities being destroyed. Families turning on each other, and a system that may be doing more harm than good. The viral footage reportedly shows Ksoo in his current state after receiving his life sentence on July 31, 2025, revealing the physical and psychological toll of years of incarceration, family betrayal, and alleged abuse. What makes it so disturbing is that it captures the human cost of everything that's happened at 26-year-old man now facing the rest of his life behind bars because his own father put him there. And it's still not over for Ksoo, because he's also awaiting trial for the 2019 murder of 16-year-old Adrian by Gaynor Jr., Foolio's little brother, a conviction that could stack even more time onto his sentence. Before his own death, had spoken about how senseless this entire cycle of violence really was.
I read that, I'm looking at it going like, this just makes no sense. Like, why, a murder has no statute of limitations, period. You can get arrested for a murder 40 years later.
Definitely.
You know,
I know
that's the one thing you don't want any, you don't want any affiliation with that at all whatsoever. So the fact that you're on the internet bragging about this shit, talking about smoking bibby is just, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm up like that is just slow or what, but.
Foolio was absolutely right. The internet bragging, the social media posts, and the music videos flaunting real weapons all came back to haunt Ksoo in court. Prosecutors turned his attempts to build street credibility into the very evidence. That sealed his fate, using his own Instagram posts to help put him away for life. But stepping back, Ksoo's downfall is just one part of a much bigger tragedy. The ADCAC-TA feud has reportedly claimed over a dozen lives since 2017, and it shows no signs of slowing down. Even with Ksoo behind bars and Foolio dead, the violence keeps going. In January 2025, 7-year-old Brianne Allen was killed in crossfire linked to the ATK and 6 Block. Part of the KTA conflicted child's life lost because grown men couldn't let go of pride and pain. The cycle is vicious and seemingly endless. Someone gets killed, friends retaliate, which sparks more retaliation, and on it goes.
Ow.
Social media and drill rap only fuel the fire, amplifying local disputes into global spectacles that pull in more young people and normalize the violence. Look at the case that set Ksoo on this path when Willie Addison was killed in January 2019. That same shooting left Abdul Robinson Jr. with a traumatic brain injury and their father wounded, instead of serving as a wake-up call to walk away. From the violence, it pushed them even deeper into it. During his testimony, Abdul Sr. described the devastating impact that injury had on Abdul Jr.
Was Abdul Jr. Affected mentally by the shooting?
Yes.
Also,
I think it made him more angry. Like, I don't know if bipolar like would be the right word to use, but it made him it changed his.
This is what trauma does to people, especially young people without real support systems, rather than healing. They often turn to revenge. And in a culture that glorifies getting back and sliding for your homies, that pain gets weaponized into even more violence. What makes Abdul Sr.'s decision to testify against his sons so heartbreaking is the choice he was forced to make. He spoke about his younger children, an 8-year-old daughter asking about father-daughter dances, and 6-year-old sons wanting him at their football games while knowing his older boys were already consumed by the streets. In the end, he was choosing between the sons he had lost to the cycle of violence and the younger children, who still had a chance at a normal life.
When she asked me over each year when I'm gonna come take her there, and I keep letting her down. Then my 6-year-old son, when he asked me if I'm gonna come to his football games, come take him fishing. My other 6-year-old, he asked me when I'm gonna come see him, when he begging me, please come see me, Daddy. He wanna teach me how to play the game, but he don't know where.
That testimony hits different when you really think about it. Because this wasn't just about snitching or breaking street. Code It was about a father trying to break a cycle. Abdul Sr. could see where his older sons were headed and made the impossible choice to save himself so he could still be there for his younger kids, even while battling serious health issues like diabetes, high blood pressure, congestive heart failure, and rapidly failing kidneys. He was dying and facing the possibility of spending his last years in prison for helping cover up murders committed by his own sons. And while the street reaction to his testimony was harsh, with voices like Boosie Badaz calling it heartbreaking and pushing loyalty over everything. Nobody wants to talk about how the nose-snitching code often protects the very people destroying communities. The prosecution didn't even need his testimony to win. They already had surveillance footage, phone records, fingerprints, and social media evidence. But having Ksoo's own father identify him as the shooter made the case devastating. This all points to a bigger question about our society, where young men feel they must kill to earn respect. Social media turns murder into entertainment, and families are torn apart by endless cycles of revenge. Looking at Ksoo, now broken down, facing life in prison, you have to wonder what could have been different if, after Willie Addison was killed, the family had chosen healing over revenge, or if Ksoo had used his platform to speak against violence instead of glorifying it, though that's easier said than done when trauma, poverty, and culture tell young black men that their worth comes from violence. The music industry profits from drill tracks about real murders. Social media promotes violent content for engagement, and even Yangin Ace, who reportedly went broke funding Ksoo's defense, stayed loyal to someone who had become a killer raising. The question of when loyalty becomes enabling. The viral footage of Ksoo now shows the result of personal, family, and societal failures. And while he's not just a villain, but also a victim of a system that failed him, it doesn't excuse what he did. Alleged abuse and jail beatings, isolation, psychological torment was another failure. With the 2021 assault happening the same day his sister was shot, fueling suspicion of a targeted attack, and more alleged abuse in 2024 during his trial, made it nearly impossible to defend himself. The tragedy extends beyond him, with the At-Qaeda feud creating fear across Jacksonville, killing innocent people like 7-year-old Breanne Allen, turning gang violence into a global spectacle through music and social media. Songs like Who? I Smoke, and When I See You didn't just diss, they escalated a war. And the viral reach means kids nationwide are consuming this violence as entertainment, inspiring more harm. The solution won't come from incarceration alone, because Ksoo's life sentence won't bring back Charles McCormack or stop the next shooting. And we must confront how the music industry and platforms profit from murder while rethinking a no-snitching culture that shields killers. Abdul Sr.'s choice, while controversial, may have been necessary to save what was left of his family, proving that sometimes love means making the hardest decision. In the end, Ksoo's downfall is a warning talent and potential loss to violence, entwined with the deaths of Foolio in Tampa. The 5 suspects arrested for his murder, Willie Addison's killing that sparked the chain of revenge, Charles McCormack's death over a diss track, and little Breanne Allen's life, taken for being in the wrong place at the wrong time.